Hey everyone!
Hello.
I was thinking about doing a video, a vlog, talking about, the racial realities of black people, around the world, the diaspora, I will say. And I have my friend Vanessa, and I told her I was gonna ask a few questions. Like we were both a bit uncomfortable, I would say. Well,
Slightly, just slightly.
Slightly, yeah. We thought, it'd be nice to do with what's happening in the States. It's a good time to start talking about, the black experience, and we ask questions, but not in a way to attack anybody or, just talking about experiences with racism and how we've dealt with them, with it. And so before I begin, I always talk about, things I saw and I found interesting. And there's a show called Little Fires Everywhere with Kerry Washington.
Oh, I know that show. I know it.
You saw it?
I saw it. As soon as I saw Kerry Washington, I'm like, I'm going to check out the show.
Yeah.
One season's not enough. It needs to be more.
I haven't finished it, so
okay.
I haven't finished it.
Okay.
But you have to watch it because, like, my husband and I we've been watching it, and let me tell you, it's intense.
I'm trying to wonder where you left off.
It's intense. Oh.
Okay.
I won't say anything because I don't want to spoil anybody, but you have to watch the show. It's with Kerry Washington, and I love Kerry Washington's with the Scandal days. I mean,
Yeah.
So I'm like, I need more, but she's done more than Scandal. Like she's done lots of movies. I love her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
really good actor.
So,
really.
Little Fires Everywhere. You have to watch it. Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington. But I love Kerry Washington. What about you?
Oh, as soon as I saw it, I was like, no, I'm gonna watch this.
You gonna watch it?
Yeah.
And it's funny, and it talks about the power dynamic and racial attacks.
I was like, how far are we gonna go into describing what this show is about? I don't want to put anything out there so that people think, okay, well, I just lost that tidbit of what the episode is. But it's definitely worth it to just. It's only, how long is the?
Like every episode.
One season.
It's one season.
But it's about an hour long.
Each episode, right?
Yeah.
It's like an hour long.
An hour long. Yeah.
Yeah, it's intense. Like when I saw it, I was like the first episode, I was like, oh, we're going there. We're going there, you know?
Yeah.
And it was very interesting.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start. We're gonna talk about the racial black experience with racism. And so I'm African. I'm from Congo. I lived in Canada for 20 years or so. So my experience will always be a bit different than your experience or Black American experience or because Black people we're all from
various places.
Various places. So our dealing with racism are sometimes different and sometimes there are similarities, right? And so that's why I was like, oh, that's not.
Yeah, decided to invite me into this. I don't normally do vlogs or videos. It's been a long time. So let me warm myself up to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're kind of nervous, the both of us, but it has to be done, I guess,
Yeah.
So we're just gonna start. Like the questions are very like. Sorry?
My background.
The background?
My background.
Oh yes. So we're gonna start.
I was like, what about me?
So we're gonna start, but so just like.
Yes. Okay, so he explained his background. So I am Canadian, and my parents are from the West Indies or Caribbean, as some people want to call it. Originally from St. Vincent, but also have family in Trinidad as well. And first generation Canadians, so growing up in the various households and many friends that are from various parts of the Caribbean, a lot of Jamaicans, especially being in Toronto. There's such a huge West Indian presence here, so you're not missing out even if you are in Toronto, and they have a huge culture, especially the soca scene. Anyone would know that as well. So
go ahead.
I miss it now. I really do. Oh, those are the days. There's still moments where I just need to reconnect to that. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting perspectives.
Yeah. Like it's a different perspective. That's why like I was like trying to and also I'm a black man, and as you can see, she's a black woman, Yeah. So I think things are different, and interesting. Yeah. So like we have different backgrounds, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna start the questions, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think the first question would be: at a young age, did watching movies with negative portrayal of black characters affect you, and in what way? It's a difficult question, so we're going to answer to the best of our abilities.
Okay. So with myself, because I was in Toronto, and when I think back with my upbringing, my mom did not like me watching a lot of TV, or I didn't watch a lot of movies. I was mostly encouraged to go outside and ride bikes, be out in the ravine and stuff like that. But the shows that I do particularly remember was like Mr. Rogers, Sesame Street, Shining Time Station, and even with some of those shows, they made sure during that time to reach out to have hosts that were very diverse, and that reflected in some ways my own community that I was living in, because where I lived, it was mostly mixed, and a lot of people were immigrants, especially in that area where it was low income. So there was, some people might call it projects, or you could call it, for us it was like Toronto Metro housing. So you had, everyone was roughly in that area of a similar scale in terms of how much income and what the housing situation was in that area. So we didn't really, when I think back of the programming that I was exposed to, it reflected, I felt, quite a bit of my area and my neighborhood that I was growing up in. There's maybe, when I think of, there are certain movies, especially Disney movies, where they did not portray any diverse female characters. I think the only one that I remember is Milan.
Yeah.
There's another one, Jasmine, like Aladdin.
Aladdin, yeah.
That was maybe the closest thing.
But you saw
the character.
Remember the Disney movie with the Princess and the Frog? Did you see it?
No.
No. She was like the first black princess, but
I think that was a little bit past my
generation. That was like past generation.
Yeah, that was past my generation.
It's like past our generation.
Yeah. So I didn't have that.
Yeah.
But I did hear about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was pretty much the only thing. Lion King was like, oh yes, you're hearing the deep roots, like the music. Yeah. Little Mermaid, no. I think the only point that I connected with Little Mermaid was like the under the sea moments.
Oh yeah,
where it was
with
the calypso, and it was like
yeah.
That's the only time where I was like, oh my god, that connection.
But I have a question. You know when they took I think it was a crab, right?
Yeah.
And they made him have generic Caribbean accent.
Yes, they did.
Like, where is that from? I've never heard an accent.
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember what was that accent? Was it the crab?
Yeah, the crab. Yeah, was it a crab? I think it was a red crab, and it was like under the sea. But it was like.
It was very. When I think about that accent, oh yeah, I wouldn't say it's a particular West Indian accent to a specific island.
Yeah, it was like.
It was just very, very one tone. You knew it was a Caribbean accent, but it wasn't specifically for a certain island.
Yeah, it was funny because I remember being a kid. I was like, oh, Caribbean. And I was like, But I couldn't quite,
That's the only time.
as I grew up, I was like listening to the accent. I was like,
Yeah,
it's not Bayesian.
it's definitely not.
It's not Trini.
No.
It's certainly not Jamaican.
No.
What is it?
Then you just reminded me now. I'm like, I don't even think. Well, the little bit that I do remember, I don't see it connecting with any specific island. It was
Okay.
just very neutral. Like you knew it was a Caribbean, that
Yeah.
Caribbean vibe, that West Indian accent.
Yeah.
But it wasn't to a particular island.
To a particular island.
No.
Yeah. Like, yeah. For me,
Mhm.
you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, like, I remember watching movies, and when I was a kid, I used to love watch movies. Like again, like Vanessa, I was in Congo when I was born in Lubumbashi, Congo, and we were told to go outside, play in the garden, take your bike, and all that. But the few times we would watch movies, I would see like the movies, like the first movie I saw was A Prince in New York with
Prince in New York.
Eddie Murphy.
Yes.
Yeah, and I
Uh-huh.
saw it, and it was like it was like an African who goes to, we didn't exactly, I forgot the place, the country. I think it was like an invented country, and he came to America, and then they
That
had
was in
like
the Coming to America one.
that Coming to America.
Okay, so I'm like,
You know what I
I'm
said?
thinking it might be Coming to America. I'm like, maybe.
Coming to America. But in French, it's like Un Prince à New York. So I forgot the name. So it's like Un Prince à New York is like a prince in New York, basically. So it's Coming to America.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Coming to America.
Yes.
So yeah, so when I saw that, and I remember like watching the way they were portraying, the rich African prince coming to to America.
Yes.
And I love that movie. It was funny, but sometimes I was just like, it's so cliche. Like like the way they would do the accent, like there was like, it wasn't like a bit like it wasn't like a specific.
It wasn't.
It was just like very like. But I don't know. It was nice because like it's like Eddie Murphy playing an African. It was very. But then there were movies where where the black man was always the violent man. He was a gangster.
Of course.
He was,
Yes.
and then there's like,
Yes.
and then he had a girlfriend, and the girlfriend was always like, let's just say it, like she was like, walking the streets, and I was like,
Mm,
I don't think all black people are this way,
yeah, right.
but it didn't like, I was young, I didn't like, it didn't affect me in some way, but I always felt uncomfortable as a young kid, and as I grew up, I was like, oh, okay, I think that's why it makes sense. So I was uncomfortable because like the way, black people were portrayed, and that's not even a question of being African, Caribbean, or Black American. It's like just black people that they are portrayed like just like in a very like negative light. I do think that things have improved though when we look at it.
At this point.
At this point, yeah. Positive.
From then, yeah.
Yeah, from then, yeah. I would say things have improved.
There's definitely a lot to go. There's a
Yeah.
lot more we could do better.
Yeah.
But that definitely takes a lot of our stories to be able to get funding
Yeah.
to be able to be produced and
Yeah.
make it to screen.
Yeah.
But that's, I think they're definitely missing out on a
Yeah.
lot of good stories.
Yeah. That's why when I saw Wakanda, Black
Oh,
Panther,
Wakanda.
I was like, I wish I was a kid.
I still enjoy that movie.
I enjoyed it.
Too.
It was a good movie.
And like, as soon
Oh.
as when I heard they were bringing up the character of Black Panther, I was like, yes. This was probably before I
Yeah.
heard about the movie, and I'm like, there's a black comic character, Black Panther. How have I not heard about this?
Me too. I didn't know.
I'm like, okay. And then the film was coming out, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I am ready. I was like, you know what? I'm going to book that ticket that first week when it was coming out.
Yeah.
Because I just definitely, that was one of those where you're like, this never happens.
It never happened, yeah.
Never
It
happens.
never happens, yeah.
A comic hero, who's obviously coming from an area where it's Wakanda.
Kind of, yeah. It's an app. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But
To regard with a
who cares?
we hold the hope inside that it would, if it was, I would be there.
Me too. I would immigrate there. I'd be like, come in. I would go.
Yeah.
I would go live there. I would be a Wakandan. Wakandan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Think about that one.
Wakandan.
Yeah.
I'll take the passport. So yeah, should we move on? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. Ooh, now that's a deeper question, but we're gonna go there, I guess. But how has violence towards Black people by the cops affected you? Because with what's happening in America, of course, then just how has it affected you? Let's say.
Huh.
It's
okay.
a deep
well,
question. So.
It is a deep question. Obviously, the time you're filming this at this point, a lot has happened. But for me, even before I came here to New Zealand, and which has been it's been since I left Canada. I think it's been about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Before I even came down, we had our own Black Lives Matter syndicate in Toronto, and around that time they were just starting to organize and have more rallies and pertaining to cases that were happening in Canada. And they were also speaking out to those in the States, injustices that was happening there. But I don't feel everyone was really seeing and believing, like, this is happening. This has happened, this person has been killed at this point. Everyone was like, okay, well, let's wait to see what the result is from our governing body of the police. And usually when that comes along and they do the investigation, there's no liability with any cop that was involved in this incident. So I'm not even surprised to see how things have gotten to this point. And when I think about how when I was younger, you're not even thinking about looking at cops in this way. When I was younger, I have a photo, even now, and I look at a photo album, I have a photo when I was maybe like 3, and I was this cop. He came to I vaguely, slightly remember it. He came, and I don't know what he was doing in the area, but normally there was some sort of police presence in our area. And he came, and my mom had him hold me, and they took a picture. And I looked fine in that photo, but then I look at that photo, and then I was like, you're always conflicted because at that time in the communities, they were always seen to be there to protect the community and look out for our welfare. And then now things have, over the years, a lot has changed. There's a lot has been seen, a lot has been heard, and it was only a matter of time before it got to this point. And even now, when I think of, now that we've had this pandemic and then the lockdown, and then that awful video of George Floyd, I'm not surprised. No one could say that we're surprised for it to be this point. It needed to hit this tipping point for anything to progress and for there to be proper accountability. And it just took very long. And even now, there's going to be a lot to be done. To get even further. They've not had enough of a governing body. I think in Toronto we have ours, but it's not really. I don't say it's legit. You have police officers that are on that committee, who are now governing their own family. That it's not. So I look at that and I'm like, there's so much more we can do.
So much more,
And, you know, it's not surprising. Yes, the video, I will admit, when I looked at that video, it was very, you know, you do get emotional. And you're just thinking to yourself, like, come on, just take your knee off his neck. Like, there's nothing wrong. There's two or three of you already holding him down. He's handcuffed.
What is he gonna do?
What else is he gonna do?
On top of that, it was very like he was not aggressive. Like, and even if he was aggressive, does anybody deserve to have their? It's confusing.
It is very confusing. Yeah. You know, it's one of those things where you think to yourself, like, okay, well, there is a point. There is that line where you just either you go to the point of that line or you go over it, and he definitely went over that line.
Yeah.
And I think I'm wondering if he even realized in his head that at some point, maybe I've been doing this for too long, but he's already in it.
Yeah.
He's already there.
I mean, the video was disturbing because, like, you could see the cop had like a smug on his face.
Yeah.
And that smug on his face, I was like, sociopath. Like, I'm sorry, but I was like, that's not really normal. But at the same time, you know, I'm not surprised either because, like, I've had, you know, like, so I've had I think in Montreal, you know, I've had cops stop me for no damn reasons, you know? Like, I would be walking and then they'd be like, hey, so where are you going? I'm like, to school, you know? And I used to play the double bass because in my school I was in the orchestra basically. It was the violin, the cello, but that's not the point. But we you know, I had to carry them with me, you know, and I would go out, and all my friends would have, you know, their cases where they put their, you know, instrument. And then at one point it was in the summertime, I decided to bring back my double bass with me, you know. And the cops, like, they didn't look at because in my school there was always the cops after that would come and check everything was okay. Check, you know.
I'm like, what is that? Maybe they come at the end. Is this every day?
It was every day, yeah. It was
this
like
isn't
from Monday to Friday. They would be like there, like when school was ending, they would be there, you know. So yeah. So I'm not gonna say anything, but yeah. So we would. So I came out with my double bass, and then nobody was asked to open their case, but it was always me. You know, I was like, "What's in your double bass? What's in your double bass? What's in your case?" And I would open and show it, and that was my instrument, you know. And then, you know, it's like those little things, and you don't say anything because it's the cops and you don't have problems, of course, you know. But for me, it was that, you know. But then you see what happens to other people, like, you know, it happens in the States, also happens to Canada. We don't hear about it a lot, and but yeah, it does happen, and there have been stories in France, and it just opens the doors of how. The governing body, not always the governing body, but the cops view people of a darker skin tone sometimes. And I don't think all cops are this way, I think, you know, but I think there's just enough to sometimes make you feel uneasy at times when you see a cop. Like, when I see a cop, I do sometimes feel uneasy, but that's because I've had experiences with, you know, the cops, you know, asking me weird questions from time to time. But when I saw the George Floyd video, I mean, it's not the first time. There was George Floyd, there was Sandra Bland, there's Breonna Taylor. We don't talk enough about Breonna Taylor, but the way she went, you have to look at Breonna Taylor's story. It's very disturbing. But when I saw the video, like, I told myself I'm not going to put myself in that instant of looking at the video, because then, you know, it looks like me. Well, it doesn't look like, but, you know, it's that.
It is always that idea.
Yeah, you know that.
Could have been you.
It could have been me. I could have been at that place, but, you know, I mean, we're in New Zealand, so we're far away from that place, of course, you know. But it's just, you know, and then it's just uncomfortable. If it makes sense.
Yeah. I think I asked my dad,
Yeah.
because he's a West Indian man who's not, that generation. They don't really they don't like to, they don't discuss their emotions too much, especially his father as well. But I just like, let me just ask him how he felt, when he saw the video. And he actually said, he was on the verge of crying.
Yeah.
And I was like, for my dad to say that, that tells me a lot, that it really affected him. And he's also has his, his past as well, and especially being a black man, and instances with cops. So I could understand why he would feel that way as well.
Yeah.
My brothers, they also, I don't think I've had that conversation with them, like when they're younger. I'm like, well, here's the thing, this is what could happen. Yeah. And they felt the same way. They were just like, it was traumatizing for them.
Yeah. It's like 8 minutes long.
8 minutes long. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, and sometimes I look at this vision, I do find sometimes like, there's always like images of, not all the time, but we see videos of black people being treated badly. Like videos on YouTube, there's like a black woman in the bus on the plane. No, there's like a black woman on the plane, and like an old white man, and he told the black woman to sit somewhere else because he didn't want to sit next to a black woman. I'm not gonna say exactly where it was. Like, if you find the video, it's really. And I was like super. When I saw that video, I was like,
who gives him the right to tell her to get up her seat and go somewhere else?
And then I was like looking. I was like, it could be my mom, because she was a black woman of a certain age. Like, it could be my mom. It could be like, then there's like the violence, And sometimes we always see that, direct, killing with, the attack, the punching of, black people. Sometimes it's just the words.
Right.
So the violence in the words, sometimes it's just like, was that necessary?
Yeah. No, it's valid.
Yeah.
It's definitely valid.
Yeah. So we went deep there.
Yeah. I'm like, how far are we going? Yeah.